Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Kauravani Pracharine Nirvite Sashunyavadi Askatyade Satarine. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shalom Vishnupad Paramahansa Ravidakasharya Asadhara Sadushi Shriman His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Swami Raj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Haribol Slava Zabrani Bhaktam Slava Shri Guru Shri Gaurangi Om Agyanatamanandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stavitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uddhavara Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prajana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shiva Sakan Svitamscha. Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prashubhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakapa Tubhyascha Kripa Sinubhyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 3, text number 26, Karma Yoga. Na buddhi vedam janayad Agyana karma sangina Joshayat sarakarmani Vidvan yukta samacharan Na buddhi vedam janayad Agyanam karma sanginam Joshayat sarakarmani Vidvam yukta samacharan. Na buddhi vedam janayad Agyanam karma sanginam Joshayat sarakarmani Vidvan yukta samacharan. Na buddhi vedam janayat Vidvan yukta samacharan. Na buddhi vedam janayat Acharan. Not buddhi vedam, disruption of intelligence. Janayat, he should cause. Agyanam, of the foolish. Karma sanginam, who attach to fruit of work. Joshayat, he should dovetail. Sarva, all. Karmani, work. Vidvan, a learned person. Yukta, engaged. Samacharan, practicing. So, translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So as to not disrupt the minds of ignorant men attached to the fruit results of prescribed duties, a learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. Please repeat. So, as not to disrupt the minds of ignorant men attached to fruit results of prescribed duties, a learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. Purport: Vedaischa savarahameva vedya. That is the end of all Vedic rituals. All rituals, all performances of sacrifice, and everything that is put into the Vedas, including all direction for material activities, are meant for understanding Krishna, who is the ultimate goal of life. But because the conditioned souls do not know anything beyond sense gratification, they study the Vedas to that end. But through fruitive activities and sense gratification, regulated by the Vedic rituals, one is gradually elevated to Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a realized soul in Krishna consciousness should not disrupt others in their activities or understanding. But he should act by showing how the results of all work can be dedicated to the service of Krishna. The learned Krishna conscious person may act in such a way that the ignorant person working for sense gratification will learn how to act and how to behave. Although the ignorant man is not to be disturbed in his activities, a slightly developed Krishna conscious person may directly be engaged in the service of the Lord without waiting for other Vedic formulas. For this fortunate man, there is no need to follow the Vedic rituals, because by direct Krishna consciousness, one can have all the results one would otherwise derive from following one's prescribed duties. Nabodhi Vedam Janayat Agana Karma Sangina Joshiyat Sarakarmani Vidvan Yukta Samacharan. So as not to disrupt the minds of ignorant men attached to fruitive results and prescribed duties, a learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskyadyade Satarane. This is describing people who are actually engaged in prescribed duties. That is, at the time when there was actually Shudras and Vaishyas and Kshatriyas and Brahmanas. They had prescribed duties. And each one of the prescribed duties would give a certain result. In other words, by following the prescribed duties according to Krishna, Anad Bhavati Bhutani Parjana Anasambhava Jagna Bhavati Parjano Jagna Karma Samudbhavaha. That all living entities subsist on food grains, which are produced from rain. And rain comes from the performance of sacrifice, and sacrifice comes from man's prescribed duties. In other words, when people are actually performing yajna for Vishnu, because that's what Vedic society was meant for, that the Vaishyas would cultivate the land, and they'd have cows to protect and give milk. And then with that ingredients, the sacrifices would go on. In other words, the Kshatriyas would collect the ingredients by paying a certain amount of, or getting a certain amount of tax from the Vaishyas, in terms of, just like when Akrura came to take Krishna and Balaram to Mathura for the wrestling match, then Nanda Maharaj and the other cowherd men, they also went to Mathura, and they took along with them milk products as offerings to Kamsa, as a tax to Kamsa. So tax was not collected in terms of paper money. It was collected in terms, for the Vaishyas, ghee and butter and milk products. And with the ghee, the Kshatriya kings were able to perform, with the help of the Brahmins, sacrifices. And from the sacrifices would come all kinds of, well, first of all, at least would come rain. Without rain, everything is a failure. Even if one can acquire vast amounts of gold and jewels, but if you have nothing to eat, you can't really be too happy. So the first business of the Kshatriya kings would ensure that rain came. The greatest catastrophe would be when there would be a drought. Just like I said, when I was in Spain recently, they haven't had rain there for a year. And therefore, if you go in their garden in the temple there in Malaga, this is in Malaga, and all over Spain actually there's been a drought. If you go into the garden, they have these little tiny vegetables because there's no water. The only ones that could survive in such a garden are the ants. And even they're having a hard time. So that's called alpadristi, lack of water. And it's not an accident. People think it's all an accident. But when people become very sinful, then the demigods withhold rain. I don't know why Malaga is specifically targeted, or Spain, but Malaga is a place where people go to enjoy, or try to enjoy. They go to the beach and get baked, cooked by the sun. We'd call that you're getting fried, but they think it's happiness. So the Vaishyas would provide the ingredients for the sacrifice, the Brahmins would expertly chant the mantras, and the demigods would reciprocate. And of course the Kshatriyas would arrange for the sacrifice with the gold and the ghee and everything else. Like Maharaj Yudhisthira performing the Yajasuya sacrifice, Rajasuya sacrifice. Or any other sacrifices that are mentioned in the Krishna book, or in the Mahabharata. The kings were always performing sacrifices. Maharaj Parikshit performed 99 sacrifices before Indra became envious and he stopped the sacrifices, because Indra is known for one who's performed 100 sacrifices, and he didn't want Prithvi Maharaj to get the credit for doing the same thing. He was afraid Prithvi Maharaj would take over the heavenly kingdom if he did 100 sacrifices. What to speak if he did 101? Then Indra thought he would be finished. And sacrifices were so powerful that because Indra was interfering with the fire sacrifice, the priest, he was stealing the horse from the Ashvamedha sacrifice. So the Brahmin priests, they chanted mantras so that Indra would fall into the sacrifice and get burnt. They were so powerful that even the king of the heavenly planets they could throw into the sacrifice and burn him. Now most of us, when we try to do arti, many times even we don't even have adequate matches to light the fire. What to speak of throwing anyone into the fire, chanting the mantras. So here it says that those who perform their prescribed duty, which practically is non-existent in Kali Yuga, I mean, no one even knows who they are, or what the purpose of life is, or what a prescribed duty is. They think that they're being tortured if they're asked to perform some duty. Just like if someone asks you, what do you do for a living? I'm a servant. Oh, I'm so sorry for you. No, I'm actually not a servant. I'm the servant of the servants in the temple. Oh, such a low esteem, self-esteem. How unfortunate. So people don't know Nate Vidu Swartikatim Hi Vishnu Darashaya Ye Barya Artimanya. They don't know that the aim of life is to reach Vishnu. Therefore they're engaged in sacrifice. Everyone has to engage in sacrifice, but for something insignificant. They'll pay to 100 euros to go to a concert and hear someone scream like a cat whose tail was stepped on. And that's how they sacrifice their hard-earned wealth in order to get something completely insignificant. Because they don't know how significant Krishna is. They don't know about Krishna. But those who are performing Vedic rituals, or those who are engaged in the Varnashram system, often they think that the results they'll get from such activities outweighs becoming Krishna conscious. So rather than stop people from engaging in from giving aside their materialistic activities, then the devotee encourages them to take up some kind of spiritual process. And indeed, generally it was quite successful in the Vedic culture. The vast majority of people who are performing ritualistic activities or prescribed duties, they'd be very happy to go and hear Krishna Katha, plays and music, and there's a whole culture that even the people who are engaged in fruit work would actually be very attracted to. And that way in the future, they would become elevated. Of course, by performing prescribed duties, one also becomes elevated, but generally most people do it with attachment, because that's the only higher taste they get. If they're not Krishna conscious, then the result of the work is what one tries to enjoy. But once one develops some taste for Krishna consciousness, then one may be able to not try to perform one's prescribed duty. One may try simply to engage in devotional service, unalloyed service, without desires for some materialistic result. Therefore, we find in the Bhagavatam someone like Lord Shiva and Brahma and Vishnu. The sages didn't know about worshiping, even the sages didn't know that they were supposed to be worshiping Vishnu. They were unsure whether they should worship Brahma or Shiva or Vishnu. So they had Bhrigu Muni test and see who amongst the demigods is actually the supreme, who we should actually serve. So as we know, the Bhrigu Muni, who is the son of Lord Brahma, went to Brahmaloka, and there his father came to embrace him, and Bhrigu Muni said, "Stop, don't touch me." Actually, he didn't offer obeisances to his father, Lord Brahma. So Brahma saw that his son was being disrespectful, and so his anger was arisen, and he was about to curse Bhrigu Muni, but Brahma's great intelligence stopped him from doing it, and instead Bhrigu Muni quickly left and went to Kailash, where his brother came to embrace him, Lord Shiva came to embrace him, and he said, "Stop, you dirty old man. You have snakes all over your neck. You cover your body with the ashes from a crematorium. Don't touch me and contaminate me." So Lord Shiva was insulted. And he took up his trident and he was going to kill his brother, Bhrigu Muni. But Parvati interceded, and she fell down in front of Lord Shiva's feet and begged him to forgive his brother, Bhrigu Muni. And the Bhrigu Muni immediately took off for Vishnu Loka in the material world, on the ocean of milk. And there Lord Vishnu is lying down on a bed, and his wife Lakshmi Devi was massaging his lotus feet, and Bhrigu Muni bursted into the room, went up to Lord Vishnu and kicked him in the chest. And Lord Vishnu immediately came down from his bedstead, went, put Brigamuni on his bed, and started to massage his feet, saying, "My dear Brigamuni, I know your feet are as soft as a lotus flower, and my chest is as hard as a thunderbolt, so I hope I haven't damaged your feet when your lotus foot contacted my chest." So then Lord Vishnu started to massage Brigamuni's feet. So Brigamuni immediately realized that this is the person, must be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore Brigamuni went back to the sages and explained to them what had transpired when he met his father, Lord Brahma, what happened when he met his brother, Lord Shiva, and what happened when he met Lord Vishnu. And all of them became worshippers of Lord Vishnu after that testimony of Brigamuni. So generally speaking, demigod worshippers go to Brahma and Shiva, especially Shiva, Ashutosha, to get material results from their work. So there's a part of the Karmakanda section that deals with demigod worship. And indeed, they get the results of their work, but they're still not satisfied. Therefore, generally speaking, one can, if one is determined enough, he can go upward and upward and upward in the planetary systems, birth after birth, and then finally when he reaches Brahmaloka, by hearing from the Vedas personified, he might get the ability to even merge in Brahman for some time. Upward mobility. But generally, no one stays Brahman for an unlimited time because it's boring, there's nothing going on there. Of course, we shouldn't underestimate the allurement of Brahman, because in Brahman there's no worries. So one is a kind of prasanatma going to Krishna, a kind of joyfulness. One realizes one's eternal, and one is in a situation where there is no pain, there's just a minimum amount of happiness, freedom from material distress. The conclusion is that if we can't perform our prescribed duties, we don't even know what they are, then we have no option other than to engage in Krishna consciousness directly. But in the future, maybe people will have Vaishyas and Shudras, whatever, real Vaishyas and Shudras and Kshatriyas and Brahmins, and they'll perform their prescribed duties, and at the same time, others, especially the spiritualists, the devotees, will try to inspire them, along with the prescribed duties, to make some offering to Krishna, or to come to some cultural program, and indeed most people will come eventually. Because the culture is inducive for spiritual life. But without spiritual life, the culture is also useless. But the culture basically restricts sense gratification, especially illicit sex, and provides the necessities of life with a minimum amount of effort, especially food grains. It said during the reign of Yudhisthira Maharaj that it would always rain exactly at the time when it wouldn't disturb anyone, and the sunshine would come out afterwards to just the right temperature so that everyone was satisfied. And then the presence of a son, that the father, well, the son wouldn't die in the presence of a father. The father would die before the son. And if anything, if there was too much rain or not enough rain, if people died prematurely, then everyone would blame it on the king for not properly performing sacrifice. In this age, we can see we're chanting, at least we're getting something to eat for now. But due to the mass sinful activities, the weather is not very pleasant in most parts of the world. And that will go on as Kali Yuga progresses, as people become more and more sinful. At the same time, as devotees become more and more Krishna conscious, some people will go down and other people will go up in Kali Yuga. Just like if it's raining outside, if you take an umbrella, then you don't have to worry about getting wet. It's not that you can stop the rain, but at least you can stop getting wet if you take an umbrella. So we can't stop Kali Yuga, it's going to go on. It's not like there's a pause for 10,000 years and that everyone does prescribed duties and everyone is pious and everyone is chanting Hare Krishna. Maybe the majority of people will do that, but there'll be a whole section of society who will refuse to engage, have no interest in spiritual life. And for them, Prabhupada recommended that a kind of an ashram will be developed so that people can at least perform some kind of duty that will result in actual proper sacrifice so that the food grains will be properly provided and people can at least survive in Kali Yuga and eventually develop their brain tissues so they can understand or recognize the value of Krishna consciousness. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Let's see what Lord Jagannath does tomorrow.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. As you explained, this verse doesn't apply so much because today, because people have their prescribed duties which are not according to the Varnashrama system. But how about these people who are doing some duty? Maybe it's not completely sinful. Should we discourage them from doing their duty, or
why should we do that? Then they won't have any money to give us a donation. No, we don't discuss. First of all, most people have we hardly have any idea what we're doing. What to speak of most people? We have some experience in Krishna consciousness, but for them, we're just dreaming. We're just some kind of, people who couldn't quite make it in the material world, and therefore they became a Hare Krishna, or a hairless Krishna, depending on which type of Hare Krishna they are. So for them, we tell them to stop performing their prescribed duty and live like us, they'll think we're crazy. Of course they do think we're crazy already, but they'll be confirmed. So we want to get them to chant Hare Krishna, and then they'll understand what we're doing. Somewhat. They'll be appreciative if they get another experience other than something mundane. And that's generally possible only in this age if one sincerely chants Hare Krishna. Is that right? Anything else? Hvala Grantaraj Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Bol.
ne samo ga satim učitelja. Kad sam. Ko je to?